This episode of Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress. There's quite a bit of mixed opinions when it comes to this episode. Some people are going to really enjoy this episode. Some people are going to be annoyed with this episode. And with me, I fall in the latter. Pretty much, I enjoyed the episode. However, I found various annoyances with this episode of Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress that I'm pretty sure other reviewers have pointed out. And probably the biggest annoyance of Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress, this new episode that we got this week, episode 9, is the main villain. I mean, just his motive alone is just what completely sucks ass about his character. I mean, let's be honest here. Nobody has cared about Biba up until this point. Pretty much the only sort of conclusion that we can draw from him is that he's a complete asshole. A villain, a good villain, has to be relatable on some level, or you could at least sympathize with the villain in order for that villain to become a good villain. But when it comes to Biba in Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress, his only motive as to what he did in this episode of Kabaneri Fortress is just because of a little grudge that he had with the shogunate from 10 years ago. From 10 years ago. What? What? like why? I mean, from everything that Biba did within this episode of Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress, was solely for the reason is that he had a grudge for the shogun from 10 years ago. So you're telling me that he completely decimated, almost eradicated pretty much everyone within the village, including women, including children, pretty much everybody, almost everybody in the village was almost completely decimated by this one dude who had a grudge from the shogun from 10 years ago. And this town, they had nothing to do with the shogun's decisions. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill all these guys so that way, I can actually make a point. You either join my legion or we're gonna kill you on the spot regardless. Like, the fuck? To be quite honest with you, the other annoyances that I found in this episode really didn't annoy me as much as compared to, Biba. Just his actions and his so-called motive, how, the weak should die off and the strong should survive. And if you want to be strong, join my legion or else I will kill you. Like, completely makes no sense. Like, he is spewing out Charles Darwin and Hitler at the same time. What possibly got me a little annoyed with this episode as well would have to be Mumei's actions. I mean, Mumei does get an exception because of the fact that she is technically acting this way, purposely because of the fact that she is being manipulated by, Biba to begin with. So, when it comes to Mumei's actions, at least she has some sort of purpose as to why she is acting this way. When it comes to, Biba, on the other hand, he's acting this way because of the fact that he's completely salty and has a severe grudge over what happened 10 years ago. Like, oh my god, just don't get me started. Like, oh my god. Like, Mumei gets an exception. Mumei gets an exception. She's a strong female sort of character. She has a decent amount of characterization towards her character. However, when it comes to these last few episodes of Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress, she has just been complete, ignorant in her actions because of the fact that she is being manipulated by her so-called brother. So, with that said, she does get an exception, and this is why I get annoyed with her character, because she is, following orders from this little prick, but, I just really hope that, we do see her finally realize what her brother, so-called brother, is really like by the end of this episode. So, hopefully, she finally comes to terms with this, and hopefully she doesn't go back to, clinging on to her brother and saying, oh, I can help you out with this, please, brother, don't, act this way, why did you do this, blah, 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 just, no. Cut the ties with him now. Cut it now. So yeah, when it comes to this episode of Kabaneri the Iron Fortress, I have mixed opinions regarding this episode. I mean, the annoyances are still there. However, I did find this episode still relatively enjoyable. It's just, you know, the major thing that really got to me out of this episode was definitely our main antagonist of the series, and hopefully I'm not the only one out there who thinks this way. You know, I mean, just like his mindset and his actions and just how he goes about doing things, like, it just makes no sense to me, you know. So yeah, I still found this episode relatively enjoyable. Sure, there were annoyances, but the major thing that got me from, you know, really enjoying this episode was our main antagonist. So yeah, that's my thoughts regarding this episode of Kabaneri the Iron Fortress. I'm definitely going to continue reading, or not reading, I'm definitely going to continue watching this series because I'm already this far in and I still enjoy the series. I still found this episode somewhat enjoyable. It definitely wasn't the best episode that we got out of this series, but it was still relatively entertaining nonetheless. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below and what you thought about this episode of Kabaneri the Iron Fortress. Do you have the same thoughts as I do? And will you be continuing with this series? Because I know some people are going to probably get turned off with this episode of Kabaneri, and I'm wondering if anybody is going to actually drop this series just because of this one episode. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like. And if you want to stay up to date to my future content on this channel, please hit that red subscribe button below, and you will never miss a video from me. That about does it for this video, guys. Love you all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.